Welcome to Student Connections, where our students connect with their community.
Welcome to Student Connections on M6, your hometown station. I'm Taylor Hornbacher, and I'll be your host today as we learn how Marysville Public Schools are trying to generate money to overcome shortfalls in state funding. We will also meet Mr. Jay Spencer from the American Red Cross. Mr. Spencer tells our own Wayne Height how his organization assists others in our community. In addition, WDIV News provided an in-depth video showing how donated blood travels from the donor to the patient. But first, let's meet Mrs. Patricia Spielberg, Marysville Public Schools Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Operations, and Administration.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections. I'm Wayne Height, and here with me today is Mrs. Pat Spielberg from Marysville Public Schools. How are you doing, Pat?
Good morning. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. All right, now tell me, how did the committee get started and how long has this been active?
Well, when the state of Michigan cut our foundation allowance a couple of years ago, the school district had to go into reduction mode for what we were offering around the schools. So what we decided to do was form a revenue generating committee. It was one of the recommendations of a committee that was researching opportunities to make reductions in the districts from a couple of years ago. Excuse me. And so the Revenue Generating Committee was formed in December of 2011, and there was a core group of district employees who got together to invite other individuals to join our Revenue Generating Committee. We invited the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, the parent organizations, employee group representatives, and so we brought everyone together to talk about ideas on how we could make some money.
All right, now how does this committee go and help out our community?
Okay, well, what we try to do are think of ways that we can generate some revenue to support the schools. We don't have a particular purpose for the revenue at this point, but that's something that we're looking at in the future. And what we're hoping to do is bring in some extra dollars to support education.
All right. Now, who is on this committee?
Well, currently we have 11 members on the committee, and I'd be too afraid to pronounce their names incorrectly to name them all. But I will tell you that we have representatives from our Teachers Association, from our Clerical Association, Maintenance Association, Administrative Group. We have members from parent-teacher organizations. We have a member from the City of Marysville and also from local businesses. So we're doing very well.
Okay, now, do you want to say who the president is of this committee?
Well, we actually all work collaboratively. We don't really have someone that's been named as the president of the organization. I'm the individual that reports to the Board of Education and brings their recommendations to them. Okay, then.
So how often do you guys meet?
When we started the committee, we were meeting monthly until we actually had a game plan in place for a couple of projects. And since we've had the Board of Education endorse a couple of projects, we've been meeting a little bit more frequently, especially in light of the late night catechism that we're offering. Since that's coming up on November 3rd, we're meeting weekly.
All right, now speaking of like the projects, I'll talk about late night catechism later, but what projects are occurring so far or has been currently worked on? Okay,
well, at this point we have the late night catechism which we'll discuss later, but we also have the board's endorsement to proceed with the concept of a memorial wall. We've had citizens that have come forth and they'd like to be able to donate funds in memory of loved ones who have passed away. And so the committee formed the idea of a memorial wall at the concession stand in the stadium.
All right.
And individuals will be able to pay a fee and have a bronze plaque put on the wall in memory of a loved one.
That's sweet.
Yes.
Now, going to the late night catechism, I know that you guys have been bringing the news out and everything about it.
Yes.
How did you guys manage to get the comedy show?
Well, we were pretty excited about it. When the idea was brought to the Revenue Generating Committee, a couple of our members had seen the production in the Macomb area, and they thought they had actually seen it a couple of times, thought it was very funny, and one of our members made a contact to the organization that presents the show, and the organization, Entertainment Events, is actually very used to working with groups in fundraising efforts. So they had a fundraising package, and we took a look at that. And then one of our group members, Mrs. Schmarrow, negotiated a lower fee for us to have the production. If you know Jan Schmarrow, that she's pretty good at those things. And so we were very excited about being able to bring them here and offer this to the community.
All right, so since it's coming up soon, people might want to know, how much are the tickets?
The tickets are $25 for the main floor and $20 for the balcony.
Okay.
And it's all general admission, and it's 7:30 on Saturday, November 3rd. We're hoping for a big turnout. We do still have tickets available.
Okay. So, assuming that if this show does go really good, are you guys planning on any more shows coming in after that?
Well, that's what we hope. We hope that we'll have a good turnout and we'll have make some money off of this project. We would rather not just break even. Okay. And if so, we'll look at bringing in other productions that this company might be able to offer. In addition, we may look into bringing in other outside organizations for concerts or something. As you know, you have a beautiful high school here, and I know the students really enjoy it, and the community really enjoys it. So we'd like to share it with other members in the county and in the surrounding area.
That's awesome. Now, with the new theater manager, how is he helping put together these shows?
Mr. Scott Kavanaugh, our new performing arts theater manager, had just been on site since October 8th, but he's already jumped in with both feet, and he's getting all the production information together for the company that's going to be on site doing the show. He has a lot of experience, so it's really been beneficial having him come on board recently.
So what encourages you guys to plan these activities?
Well, we're looking for a way. It started out as a way to generate revenue, but now it's also becoming a way to provide services for the community and listen to what community members say, as far as, for example, the memorial wall, and also to be able to support the schools in any way possible. Since we started the committee, we actually had a contact from a local business who had heard about it and wants to join in with us as well. So we're hoping our committee membership will grow.
Okay, how does this make you feel that you're doing these activities and everything?
Well, I think everyone on the committee feels pretty good about what we're doing. Everyone is so busy these days, it's hard to carve out time to do something extra, but this is a worthwhile endeavor, and we think we're providing something that is really going to be fun.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I had a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you very much.
Now, don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more after this.
Welcome back to Student Connections. Let's turn our attention to American Red Cross. The Red Cross is a national treasure. They are available during disasters and in good times. They have an instant impact both locally and across the globe. Mr. Jay Spencer tells us more about this incredible organization.
Hello, welcome to Student Connections. I'm Wayne Height, and with me today is Jay Spencer from the American Red Cross. How are you doing, Jay?
Good.
That's good. Now, do volunteers run your programs, or do you have a staff member running it?
It's a combination. We cannot run any program without volunteers.
Okay.
They are the main force of our organization. We do have paid staff, like on the blood service program. Our nurses that collect the blood are all paid staff. Our truck drivers are paid staff. I'm paid staff. But we cannot run the program without volunteers registering donors, serving the juice and cookies, labeling the blood bags. And our other programs rely on volunteers, like disaster services or teaching CPR, first aid. They're all volunteers.
You know, talking about the teaching CPR and first aid, could you talk a little bit more about those for us?
Sure. We have a program. It's a first aid CPR program, and what we do is we train trainers, volunteer trainers, to go out in the community and teach first aid and CPR. Now, they are trained by a paid staff person, and then they go out to the community and train.
Okay. So it's kind of like somebody goes and teaches them, and they go and teach others.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So the student becomes the teacher.
Right, right.
All right. Now, how can people become volunteers, and like what's the age that they have to be?
Well, actually, the age probably around 12 years old. That's when we
Really?
start teaching babysitting classes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and once we teach someone babysitting class, they become a volunteer and they can actually go out and babysit and be a certified babysitter.
All right.
Most of our volunteers are 16 and older. Like when we come to the school here, we're going to have some of your students be volunteers, registering donors, and serving juice and cookies and labeling the blood bags.
All right.
We have youth programs, and once we teach the youth, they become a Red Cross volunteer.
Sweet. Now, if someone was interested in a job at Red Cross, what steps do they have to take to get in?
Well, in St. Clair County, all you have to do is call 985-7117, which is our local chapter here in Port Huron, and then you'd go down and fill out a volunteer application. And then we'd go over the programs with you and which program you want to be a volunteer in, and that's how it starts.
Okay. Now, we have some soldiers that are overseas right now. What ways do you guys go and help them out?
Well, one of our programs at the American Red Cross is service to military families.
Okay.
And this is an important program. Any communications with the armed forces through the civilians and the military goes to the Red Cross.
Okay.
For an example, let's say there's a person in the military and he could be anywhere. He could be on a ship, he could be in Afghanistan, anywhere. And there's a family problem at home and the family has to get in touch with him. They have to go through the Red Cross because we can find them.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That answers it. Now, do you offer, well, you talked about the CPR and the first aid training. Now, how do people register to those classes?
Again, they'd call the local Red Cross and set up, we have regular scheduled trainings.
Okay.
And they would go down there and take a training.
Okay, now what is a Red Cross school club that I'm hearing about?
Well, it's an old club we're trying to renew with schools. And what it would be the youth in the schools becoming part of the Red Cross team as a school club and supporting our programs.
All right, now what other programs do you offer for the teens?
Well, it would be disaster services is one of our main programs. They could help out at the blood drives. They could become involved in the youth club program and do that.
Okay.
We have the babysitting classes.
Yep.
And we probably have a few more, and I can't think of them right now.
All right. Well, how does the St. Clair County chapter compare to other counties?
Well, we're pretty unique. We do all the programs of the Red Cross with one executive director. He's the only paid staff person in St. Clair County. I am paid out of Southeastern Michigan region with the blood program.
Okay.
So it's up to our executive director here to run the disaster program, the first aid program, and the service to military family program.
Really?
Right. And then Southeastern Michigan handles the blood drives and the blood program.
Okay.
So he has a lot of volunteers to help him out. And he needs more.
He does?
Yes.
How much more?
You'd have to talk to him.
All right. Well, besides running blood drives, what other programs do you have that can help the community?
Well, we mentioned the CPR first aid.
Mm-hmm.
The service to military family helps the civilian part of the community.
Yeah.
And of course the blood drives.
All right.
And disaster services, which is very important. I mean, when you come to disasters, a lot of people think disasters and we help at hurricanes, tornadoes. The number one disaster is single family fires.
Really?
That's where we help the most because every day in the United States there is a single family fire, more than one. And what we do is we will provide them, let's say the house burns down or the apartment burns down. We'll provide them with a place to stay. We'll provide them with clothing and food.
Okay.
And that's the major disaster program that we have. Now, if there's a tornado or a flood and it wipes out a town, okay, then we'll come in and provide shelter, food, medical care, and everything else.
All right, well, that's very helpful. Now, going to the blood drives, how many do you actually have each year?
In St. Clair County, we have about 135 blood drives a year.
Really?
Yes, we'd like to have more. We go to all the high schools. Most
Okay.
of the high schools
Yeah.
we go to twice. The high schools are very important. They give us about 20 to 25% of our blood collections per year. We go to churches. We go to Lions clubs and KFC clubs. We go any place there are people who are willing to give blood that can give us 20 and above pints.
Okay. Now, are there any of those blood drives coming up soon in, like, say, Marysville?
Yes, your high school, Marysville High School, is going to have a blood drive on Monday. Let me look at this note here. November 19th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, and we want to collect 25 pints of blood just right here from the school. And to do that, we need about 40 people signed up.
Okay.
Okay.
So obviously people better go and start coming over and say, hey, I'm going to give some blood.
Right, and we have a criteria that donors have to meet, and we want appointments only. There is another blood drive at the KFC Marysville the day after Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And that's when we will really need some blood that day because of the holidays, and we can't collect any blood on the holidays. And during the holidays, the need for blood goes up, but the collections go down.
Really?
Yes. Well, people are busy, people aren't working, we can't go to the high schools, they're off, businesses are
Yeah.
closed, so it
Yeah.
becomes, very important during the holidays to give.
Okay. So since Marysville High School is actually having a blood drive coming up soon, I know kids are going to want to know what are the qualifications to actually donate blood?
Okay, well, we have first of all, we have this year 16-year-olds can now donate with parents' permission, and we have a form
Okay.
that they must take home for their guardian or parent to sign so they can come in and donate. And we must have that form at the blood drive when they come in.
Now, what is on the form? Like,
It gives information about giving blood, and it's just a sign-up sheet.
Okay.
Parents' permission to give.
all right.
But there is a criteria, a height and weight criteria for students that they have to meet to give blood. And
Okay.
to go over some of it, for females, it starts at 5'1", and you have to weigh 133 pounds, and then it goes up. If you're 5'6", you can weigh 110 pounds.
Okay.
For the guys, if you're 4'10", you have to weigh 120 pounds, and if you're 5 foot, you can come in and donate at 110 pounds. The reason
Okay.
for this criteria was because we found that a lot of females that were small
Yeah.
would have a lot of reactions. And with the American Red Cross, our first responsibility is to the donor safety.
Okay.
So that's why we made these criterias, because we think first of
Yeah.
the donor. We don't want reactions
Mhm.
with the donor. And then second, we want to collect a full pint of blood so we
Yeah.
can transfuse that into patients.
Now, what kind of reactions were there? Like passing out? Or
Yeah, feeling
just
dizzy.
kind of like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff like that. And what we want students to do is eat a breakfast or eat something before they donate.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to give them some water before they donate.
Mhm.
This helps with the reactions.
Oh, okay.
So.
So, can people host their own blood drives? And if so, how can you go and set up these blood drives?
Okay, well, yes, organizations can host their blood drives. What we do is we send out an interest survey, and we ask them to get 45 names on this interest survey before we set the blood drive up. Because in the past we have found, a lot of people want to host a blood drive and they think they can go out and put up a poster and that's it and people will come.
Okay.
And that's not quite how it goes. So we want a list of names.
Okay.
So we actually have people that will show up at the blood drive.
Now, adults aren't the only ones that can go and host the blood drives. I've been told students can too. Can you go and explain more about that?
Sure. We have two programs
Okay.
for the youth. One is called the Scholarship Program. The Scholarship Program we do in the summertime because that's when blood is needed the most. And it can be any high school student from 9th grade on.
Okay.
Okay, and how it works is that they would host a blood drive either at the school or maybe a church.
All right.
If they get 30 pints of blood, we will pay the school that they're going to attend $500. So they could actually host more than one blood drive.
Yeah.
And let's say they host 4 and they could get $2,000. And we'll send that money to the school. And then once they register and get
Yeah.
to the school, they go to their finance department at the school and there's
Okay.
paperwork and they send it
Yeah.
to us and we send them the money.
All
The other
right.
program we have is called Bleed for the Bands, okay? But it can be used with any organization in the school. It works basically the same way. If you collect 30 pints or more, you get the
Okay.
$500, but that money goes to a vendor.
All right.
So if it's with the athletic department, that money could go to a vendor to buy sports stuff.
Yeah.
And if it's for the band, it can go and buy music or instruments and
Yeah.
so forth.
All right.
Those programs work pretty good, and last year we gave out over $5,000 in scholarship money, so pretty good
Nice.
program.
Yeah. Great deal.
Yeah.
All right. Now, many people do not know this, but what is done with the blood after it's given, people do not know much about. Now, to explain this process, the Red Cross has provided us with a video explaining it.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank McGeorge from WDIV Local 4 in Detroit. You've probably heard it said, one blood donation can save up to 3 lives. But when you actually donate blood, there's no way to know where your blood goes or who it really helps. So we wondered if would-be donors could see how much that donation really means, would they be inspired to donate more often or to donate for the first time? So we asked the Red Cross to do something it's never done before, to allow us and our cameras to follow a single blood donation from the donor to each of the recipients and through every step along the way. From arm to arm, it's a life-saving journey.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
It all begins with John McCallum.
Welcome to the Red Cross. You're here to give blood today.
Indeed.
It's 12:37 on a Thursday, and this 41-year-old father from Ann Arbor is about to save 3 lives. The first step for any donor, a health history and mini physical. The results are always completely confidential. So we stay outside while John answers questions about his health and has his temperature and iron levels checked. Meanwhile, in the collection room, Red Cross staff are carefully labeling sample tubes and collection bags. Take a close look at this number, 13GN15606. That's the number on the bag that will soon hold John's blood, and the number we'll be following for the next few days, weeks, and months. After passing his physical, John is ready to donate.
First thing I'm going to do is just check out your veins.
Okay.
Before each step of the process, that all-important number is checked and rechecked and checked again. Then a quick prick,
I just don't like needles.
and John's life-saving gift begins filling the collection bag.
I started donating when I was in high school. Everybody wanted to donate for some reason, and I guess I just wanted to be hip and part of the crowd.
About 4 years ago, John began donating again, about twice a year. His blood type is O negative. That means it can be given to anyone, regardless of their blood type.
Once I realized, hey, it's, my blood can really help some people, then I thought, well, got to at least donate a little more frequently.
To his 7-year-old son, Miles, it's simple.
Other people need blood, and he has some, and he's sharing it with some people.
And what does he think of his dad?
Cool.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
In just 10 minutes, John is finished and off to eat juice and cookies. While John's part is done, his blood is just beginning the long journey to 3 recipients. The collection bag is placed in a cooler waiting to be transported. Again, the number is verified. At the same time, the small tubes of blood that were also collected are packed in a rack, ready to go to the testing lab to be checked for a long list of diseases. The number on each tube matches the number on the collection bag. While the blood waits for pickup, we sit down with John, who wishes more people would make time to donate blood.
Even if everybody out there just donated once a year, we would never have a blood shortage.
Instead, there is a blood shortage, especially of type O negative blood, the type that can be given to any patient in an emergency. 37% of the U.S. population is eligible to give blood, but only 5% actually do each year. The most common reasons for not donating are simply not thinking about it or a fear of needles. John says the quick needle prick is a small price to save 3 lives. And as for what drives him to donate, he says it was the birth of his son that made him think more about helping others.
Selfishness goes out the window, I think. The uncertainty of life. I mean, you never know if you're going to need it. And that's really, I guess, my driving factor. And hopefully people will just realize it's not just about them, it's about life.
Less than an hour after being donated, John's blood is on the move. Along with other donations, it's being transported to an area called manufacturing at the Red Cross's Detroit headquarters. The bags are unpacked and sorted by collection time. Our unit is about to be separated into 3 different components: red blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Red blood cells are the microscopic discs that carry oxygen from the lungs to cells throughout the body. Platelets are colorless cells that help form clots to stop excessive bleeding. And plasma is the liquid portion of blood. It's about 90% water, but also contains substances that are critical for clotting and fighting infections. Separating the whole blood into those parts starts here with a spin in the centrifuge. The red blood cells are heavier. They sink to the bottom, while the plasma and platelets move to the top. That top layer is removed and heads over to another centrifuge, this time to separate the platelets from the plasma. Blood is collected into a pre-connected network of bags and tubing, sealed in such a way that it is never opened or exposed to air. From the donor's arm to the people the blood, platelets, and plasma will help, there is no risk of contamination. A special solution is in the bag that now contains just the red blood cells. It increases their shelf life to up to 42 days. At this point, to make it easier for us to spot John's donation, we add this tag that says, "Follow this blood." The red blood cells head for the refrigerator where they'll be stored until they're ready to be shipped to a patient in need. Meanwhile, the plasma is going into the flash freezer. The temperature there, a bone-chilling 27 degrees below zero. The plasma's frozen solid in just 45 minutes. Unlike the other components, plasma can be stored for up to a year. And while the plasma is freezing, the platelets are put on trays to rest for 2 hours. Platelets are like newborns. They're very fragile and need constant care and attention. After 2 hours, the platelets move here to a special room with machines that gently rock the platelets constantly back and forth, preventing them from clumping. Because they can't be frozen, platelets have the shortest shelf life. They must be used within 5 days of being donated. That means the clock is ticking. Just under 6 hours after John donated his blood, 4 sample tubes collected at the same time arrive at the testing lab, along with samples from across our region. It's not a place the public is normally allowed to see. Here, the dedicated staff work around the clock, weekends and holidays too, to make sure that our nation's blood supply stays safe. John's sample tubes are immediately unpacked and placed on special racks. The number on each tube, 13GN 15606, matches the number on the bags now holding John's plasma, platelets, and red blood cells. Inside the lab, the atmosphere is serious and seriously organized. 28,000 tubes pass through here each day. The different colored tops, some red, some purple, some gray, mean different things have been added to the blood to make it clot or not clot as needed for each test. A total of 14 tests will be performed over the next 6 hours. 2 of those will determine the blood group, O, A, B, or AB, and Rh type. That's the negative or positive part of your blood type. The results confirm John is type O negative. The rest of the tests check for infectious diseases that could be transmitted to a recipient during a transfusion. Some of those diseases are familiar, including HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. Those diseases are actually tested at least twice, once for evidence of exposure to the viruses and once for actual pieces of the virus. The blood is also tested for syphilis, West Nile virus, human T lymphotropic virus, certain unexpected antibodies, and Chagas disease. Chagas is a serious, often fatal disease caused by this parasite. The tubes move through the various high-tech tests with careful precision. If all of the tests are negative, the blood can be released and transported to local hospitals. If any of the tests come back positive, the blood is discarded and the donor is notified. The final say comes from quality control. At 1:48 a.m., after a thorough recheck of the paperwork and a few clicks of the mouse, John's blood is declared safe to continue its journey. One donation, 3 lives. Platelets, packed red blood cells, and plasma, each heading to a different recipient. After 24 hours of processing and testing, our platelets are ready to go and on the road to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Platelets are special. They have to be used within 5 days of being donated. That's why blood is constantly needed. Immediately after arriving at U of M, the platelets are assigned to 38-year-old Christina Kramer, a working mom from Coloma, Michigan, on the west side of the state.
And then it came to where I couldn't even walk, though, one day. I was running a really high fever of probably 102. Once they did blood work again, they figured I had leukemia.
Christina has endured months of chemotherapy, radiation, and a bone marrow transplant. Through it all, she's needed frequent transfusions of blood and platelets. Tonight, less than 36 hours after they were donated by a stranger, she'll receive another life-sustaining gift.
13, G as in George, N as in Nancy, 15606.
Okay.
Right now, the platelets are helping me so I don't bleed, because I could, bleed to death, basically, if you don't have your platelets. And I didn't realize all that stuff before.
John's donation also produced special red blood cells, O negative, the universal donor type. John's blood can be safely given to anyone, but it's especially precious to other type O's who can only receive this type of blood. Here at the Red Cross, it's a little past 4:30 a.m., and the O-negative red blood cells, one of the most valued parts of the donation, is being packed and shipped to Henry Ford Hospital as part of its standing order, so there is always a supply of blood on hand for its patients. Patients like 80-year-old Alfonsia Hunter, who first donated blood years ago.
When I was 22 years old, I was drafted in the Army, and on the ship going to Korea.
After surviving a serious war injury, Alfonsia's willingness to give blood was even stronger.
Just about every time I have a blood drive, I gave blood.
Now, decades later, it's Alfonsia who needs blood. A 6-year battle with prostate cancer has left him very anemic, causing dangerous health problems. Our red blood cell unit arrives, keeping Alfonsia in the fight for another day. St. John Hospital in Detroit is where we follow John's plasma. It's been in the deep freeze for 2 months now. It can be stored for up to a year, but today, someone needs it.
I've been on Coumadin since 1992, and in 1997 I had double open heart surgery.
52-year-old Anita McCullum needs more surgery, but since starting the blood thinner Coumadin, anytime she could bleed, she also needs plasma. This straw-colored fluid is packed with proteins that help blood clot.
And plasma wasn't available, I wouldn't make it.
To every recipient, John's blood is a gift that they're grateful for.
When you go and give blood, you're giving life.
You never know. You could be saving a child's life. You could be saving somebody in your own family's life. You never know.
Thank you. And just keep donating.
Remember, the need for blood is constant. If you want to donate, call 1-800-RED-CROSS or go to redcrossblood.org to set up an appointment. You can also visit your local Red Cross donation center. You may never meet the people you help, but they're out there and they're grateful.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, and hopefully we convinced you to come by the high school Saturday night to see a very funny show. Be sure to join us again on Student Connections. I'm Taylor Hornbacher for M6, your hometown station.